Yeah.
My name is Ujjwala Borkar. Welcome to this discussion on the awareness of the DPDP Act 2023, which is soon to be implemented. On our panel today, we have experts from the industry who will guide us on the salient features of the DPDP Act 2023 and help us understand the applicability of this act. So firstly, let me introduce Alhad Oak. He is a veteran in the field of legal and company secretarial, having more than 27 years of experience. He is also the founder of the law firm Y&Z Legal since more than 15 years. He has previously worked in APM Terminals, Zycus Infotech, and Oracle Financial for over 12 years. He also has a membership of the Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa. Our other member on the panel is Mr. Krishna Kumar, KK as we call him. He is the founder and director of SIDR Solutions and Technologies Private Limited. This is a cybersecurity services company engaged in fraud prevention and management. KK has several years of experience in the technology and finance world. In his last assignment, he worked as a CEO at CH Technologies. He has also worked with Merrill Lynch, TCS, and ABN AMRO Bank. So let's begin this call. Let's start with you, Alad.
Sure.
Can you explain to us
Yes.
what DPDP Act 2023 is and what is its purpose?
So thank you, everyone. Thanks, SIDR team. Thanks, Ujjwala, for moderating this session. Really appreciate for inviting us at this session for knowledge sharing on the DPDP Act. Now, before we get into the discussion on the DPDP Act, let's understand something very specific about the personal information, personal data related certain rights. India as a country, we never had a specific regulation with respect to data protection and especially for the personal data related protection. So when we first got the glimpse of data protection related aspects were from the IT Act, Information Technology Act. And that's where we got certain information or certain obligations with respect to protection of certain information. And especially it was related to the electronic data or information, but very minuscule terms. But DPDP Act specifically provides for processing of digital personal data. Now, this is very crucial to understand that this act governs digital personal data. Can somebody go on mute, please? Azhar? The act aims to strike a balance between the right of individuals to protect their personal data and the necessity to process such personal data for lawful purposes. Now, here we have three elements. One is about the processing of personal data, individual data, its protection, its necessity to process such the personal data and its lawful purposes. So all these aspects are covered under DPDP Act 2023. Currently, the act is there, but rules governing the act are yet not been implemented. So currently the act is applicable. However, since rules which typically provides the processes, procedures, they are yet to be implemented. So we have a half-baked cake right now.
Okay. Can you also explain to us who are the main stakeholders of this act?
Sure. So before answering that question, who are the main stakeholders? Let's appreciate, and I would like Krishna Kumar's feedback also on that. What personal data means? So personal data means it includes your personal information, which can identify an individual in a very precise and specific manner, which means my name, my surname, my Aadhaar number, my PAN number, my address, my mobile number, my email ID. So these are all very specific information related to me as an individual. So whenever any information which precisely demarcate or identify a person, that will be considered as personal data. Krishna Kumar, do you want to pitch in with some additional inputs on that?
Keki, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm so sorry. So contrary to what we think as personal data is all about, just about name, date of birth, and telephone number and PAN card. It contains the act covers a whole lot of personal data, which is which are not so common. So let me tell you, not so common, which we are not aware of, besides the names and Aadhaar card and bank account number, like IP address is also a personal data. Okay, a cookie ID is becomes a personal data. Okay, location data means where the it's not saying just Bombay, but in Bombay at a particular place. That becomes a personal data. They even say handwriting is a personal data. Why are these peculiar things included, which we may not think as personal data? It's because that act says that if through this you can uh, you can ascertain who is the person, then it becomes comes under the purview of the DPDP Act. So some other things I would say is like password, maybe social media profile IDs, uh, mobile device IDs if they are registered, and through which you can seek. These are some of the not so known personal data which comes under the purview of DPDP Act. Alad, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thanks for such a detailed explanation on that part. Really appreciate that. So,
Thank you.
as explained by Krishna Kumar, the personal data today, we cannot think that personal data as a definition in a very static manner. We have to consider this, and it will definitely develop over a period of time because a lot of different personal gadgets will happen. Maybe I'm wearing a wearable watch that is capturing certain my personal data. For example, my heartbeat rate, my running speed, or maybe my routine jog route. So even this could be a personal data for sure. So this cannot be considered as a static. It will get evolved, but over a period of time, for primarily what is covered in terms of applicability is something which is collected online or something which is collected offline but later on digitized, and something which is processed outside India if it relates to offering goods and services to individuals in India. It does not apply to data processed by an individual for personal or domestic reasons and data made public by an individual for on my own disclosures. For
Like
example,
social
if I'm writing
media.
a blog, if I'm writing that, it will considered as my personal disclosure to the world. Now, coming back to your question about who are the stakeholders. So, stakeholders are basically we have data principal, who is somebody as an individual who is sharing the data. Data fiduciary means the person who is seeking that data for certain legal purposes with a due consent of the individual from whom the data is being sought from. And third, data processor. So the entity who is engaged by data fiduciary to do certain activities and process the data for certain valid legal cause. So these are the primarily three very critical stakeholders. Krishna Kumar, you want to add something more to that?
Interesting
You're on mute.
one interesting aspect of the what is the applicability. Let's look at it. A toll company. Okay, a car is coming to the toll company. All that the toll company is doing is to record the car number. Okay, nothing else. But is that part of? Is that come? Does that come under DPDP?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Now, a car. So today, if you there are various websites where you can put the car number and you can actually get to know about the information about the owner. If that is possible, it can come within the purview of personal information. And I'm not sure because this has been done with that purpose, but you will appreciate that those who are into cars reselling websites, they will never show you the car plates for the precise reason, and that's a more on a commercial side, the reason, because nobody should look at the nameplate, identify who's the owner, and directly approach for the car buy or sell. But that's a commercial reason. But now, since this will also lead to a personally identifiable information, it can still be considered as a personally identified information.
Okay, let me just interject
toll
there,
will come
Ahlad.
in picture. Yes.
Is it only for legal purposes, this data collection?
So data collection has to be for legal purposes. I can give you an example. Okay. So now if I'm traveling, okay, if I'm traveling to say to Bengaluru, or I'm traveling to Hyderabad, then I may need a vehicle there. Okay. For which what vehicle provider needs my information is about where he or she should pick me up, the location, maybe at hotel, maybe at station, and what is my mobile number. If the person is asking me about my other details, give me your Aadhaar number, or give me your information related to your family and other stuff, that is something which is a very personal information. I should not be required to share this information, because it is not legally required to provide me a service of providing car rental things. So legal means wherever it is need to know, kind of, or need to have to give me certain services which I have sought for.
Okay. Coming back to you, KK, how will SIDR play a crucial role in helping one comply with the DPDP Act? KK, you're on mute.
So there are two aspects to the DPDP Act, which is applicable to, I think, to almost every organization. Uh, one hand, you have the legal aspects, which Alad had spoken about. What is required by every organization. On the other hand, is how do you comply with those legal aspects that the government of India wants.
Okay.
DPDP Act is, if for people who know about GDPR, it's almost the same. Okay, it is like GDPR and many other data privacy act that are across the globe. Now, the important thing is to comply. That's the most important thing. Every organization which falls under the DPDP Act must comply. So the first question is, does the organization come under the purview of the DPDP Act? If we are able to establish that the company is collecting personal data, or as what Alert said, the data data of the data principle, then that becomes that the organization falls under the DPDP Act, and it has to do everything possible to ensure that the data is protected and kept confidential. It cannot be leaked out. Okay, and also it means that the usage of that data has to be very, very properly monitored. The data principal or the individual has a right to say where and how my data can be used. And at the end of the period, end of the purpose or a time, I want my data to be deleted. So at SIDR, we are in a position to do this entire life cycle or management of the data, such that the organizations which fall under the purview of DPDP Act are fully compliant, and that is something that we do with the help of services and products.
So do you have any such offering, such software that can help, one maintain this format in a digital format, I mean?
Yes, that's correct. So I said we offer. It's not just a product that will solve your problem. It's a combination of products and services which will help you. Like a product is there which will help you to manage the data, ensure that there is no unauthorized access. And if there is an audit that is required to be done, then you are in a position to get the logs and see who is accessing the personal data. So if there is any unauthorized usage, then the company can take action on it. So the entire logs, the retention of the data, preservation of the data in digital form is what this tool does. Over and above that, we provide the services. Services include impact analysis, data flow. Where is the data flowing? Which are the applications it is using the data? Does the business owner know that this data is being used by so and so people? Because the data is owned by the business, and business owner should know where the data is going. It can go from the company to maybe to a branch, maybe to a data processor who's outside the organization. It can even be going outside the country. So the entire data mapping has to be done. And we at SIDR are in a position to provide you the entire gamut of services, which includes product and services, which will help you to get 100% compliant with DPDP Act.
Okay. Now, Anand, specific to travel agency, how does
Yeah,
a travel agency fall in the purview of this DPDP Act 2023?
sure. There are certain, let's look at the usage cycle. Now, if I go to a particular website which is providing me the ticketing facility, I will be providing the details related to my destination. I will be providing details related to my family members who are traveling, their age. So I'm sharing this kind of personal information. I'll be sharing certain information related to my identification proof, for example, Aadhaar, PAN card, and all that stuff. So I'm sharing all this information. Now here is the another picture that that website may be having certain API protocol, API links with another agency who is actually providing the ticketing to me, or it is directly getting having API with say Indigo or Air India or any of the airlines for that matter. So my information is flowing between the website, API partner, maybe there could be aggregator, or it could be airlines. I may be shared. So this area may be shared to information may be shared to many entities. For example, if I'm booking a hotel, the information will go to hotel. If I'm booking a car, the information will go to car. If I'm pre-ordering certain meal during the travel, then it will go to catering agency. It will also provide my preferences of food, whether I'm vegetarian, non-vegetarian, vegan, what kind of food I prefer. So those kind of information is shared. Then if I'm clicking on insurance button, my information is getting shared to insurance companies also. So while using any transaction, for example, when we talk about MICE as an industry, which is about meetings, incentives, conferences, exhibitions. So typically this MICE industry collects a lot of data. For example, I attended one conference where I received a personalized bag with my name mentioned on the bag. So, which means my name was shared to the provider. So which means again certain information is getting to the supplier of the bags. He got my information related to my name and where the bag to be delivered to. So my address.
Okay.
So these are the things which my industry as an industry collect huge amount of data and which is shared to left, right, center, multiple agencies, and that's where a lot of consent management is needed, which I think Krishna Kumar can talk about consent management related aspect of more. And then how consent can be provided for one-time usage, multiple time usage, deletion of that consent for usage of personal data or modification or alteration of data. So this is very, very critical as especially this industry, the MICE industry, travel agency, and they get humongous data and it is processed at multiple locations, at multiple agencies, and that's where the responsibility for compliance comes.
Okay. KK, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think it is just that it just happened today that there was this gentleman who came from the bank, and they wanted my Aadhaar card, my Aadhaar copy, my PAN copy, and I said, why? Why do you need all this? What is the purpose that you need? And they were like, that's a process. I said, but things have to change. This is like a process which was designed maybe 30 years ago, right? I want to know what you're going to do with my PAN card, right? So he had no answers to that. And so that's a change that I'm talking about will come. Today, banks ask you, hey, give me your Aadhaar card. We simply give me your PAN card. We are simply giving it away, right? A day will come when the data principal or the individual will say, no, tell me, why do you want my data, right? And you have a right to ask that information. You have a right to what is called a consent. And this is a very important aspect of the Data Privacy Act, that the consent is required of the data principal or the individual to use the data that he is giving, the information that he is giving for an intended purpose only. That means if you are using it for, let's say, a marketing campaign, you got to specify the marketing campaign, and you are assuring the principal that once the marketing campaign is over, you're going to delete his records, and he has a right to know that his records are deleted or not. Which means you, when a data principal wants to know, tell me, give me the proof, or give me a confirmation that my records have been deleted. You collected on so and so date. So it is incumbent on the organizations to show that that data has been deleted. You'll have to maybe give a certificate saying that your data has been deleted, and you have to be ensuring that. Uh, so consent manager is a kind of a entity that will come up in the organizations, and his job is to ensure that consents given follows a life cycle, that is collection of the data, preservation of the consent letter, use of the consent for the purpose that he has given, and deletion of the consent once the purpose is over. Now, there are some contrasting on this as to how long you're going to hold this data. The DPDP says once the purpose is over, delete it. But as we know that there are laws in the country which kind of expects you to preserve for 10 years and maybe much more. So what happens to that? So that's something it could be an issue. What do you say, Alad?
Yeah, absolutely. So go to income tax and they will say we can open your case at any point of time until 8 years period of time. You go to company law, certain information can be required, needs to be protected for 8 years period of time. So those kind of legislations are absolutely, they need to retain the information, and that may contain certain personal information also. So obviously we have to retain to that extent, and somebody just tells us to delete that data, we cannot delete that data.
Yeah, also KK, the solution that SIDR offers, if in case the consent is withdrawn, are there arrangements for handling that kind of a situation?
Yes. So the like I said, the entire life cycle of the consent has to be managed. Okay, that's very, very important, and that's what this product does. It has got retention. It has got authorized users only can access that. So unauthorized people cannot access this. It will log who accessed this particular data, when, what time. Okay, that's there. If it has been deleted, the log will clearly show this consent data has been deleted by so and so on so and so date. If he has been updated for whatever reasons, if he has done some updation, that also will come up very clearly. Which means you have an audit trail, as we would call it in the audit parlance. There is an audit trail available, which is extremely important for every organization to have, to show or to prove that they have all the procedures and policies to manage consent.
Okay. Anand, on the point of consent being taken by the data fiduciary, is
Right.
there any guidance on what the content of the consent letter will be? Will it vary from industry to industry?
Surely. So ideally, so the content consent management needs a specific confirmation, and that specific confirmation has to be in writing. So when I'm seeking consent, the consent has to be specifically sought for what kind of consent I'm seeking for to access data. Now, for example, if there is a medical prescription related tool or app which I'm doing, and this example is already there in the explanation in DPDP Act. So if I am seeking for a medical prescription related tool, and it may need my prescription related details, my individual details, my mobile and my location. It need not have access to my contact list. So from that perspective, if they want to get an access to my contact list, there has to be a valid reason. They have to provide me a reason why they want to access my uh, specific area of. So for example, if they want to access to my data storage, because my prescription is stored in my picture gallery, naturally they will need my access to my gallery. They will need the access to my location, because if that location determines where I'm residing or where I'm located right now, yes, that is needed. So something which needs in the process of providing services that will identify what consents are being sought for. Now here, certain consents will also come in terms of voluntary aspects. Like this consent is being sought that if you are interested to know our new product launches, other stuff, we may provide you certain information. If I tick explicitly, then I'm giving consent for this purpose. But if I'm not ticked for marketing material, the marketing material should not be provided to me, and that information should not be used for providing any marketing related information by using my mobile number. So consent
Okay.
has to vary from portal to portal. So consider e-commerce portals of different varied natures. It could be marketplace, or it could be any personalized services, or it could be any other products or services. So those kind of information are required to be managed specific to that portal or service, understanding their requirements and where they are going to use that data from. So consent form is very critical. It can be done in electronic form, or rather I would say that considering the current scenario of e-commerce, it will be most likely in the electronic form only, by way of an I accept and tick marks and confirmations.
Okay. We have a question from one of the participants. The question is, what about those entities who are still in the primitive stage of collecting physical documents? Does this DPDP Act apply to them?
So when we talk about the DPDP Act, it is about a data which is in digital form. But the definition also provides that if data is obtained in physical form and later on it is digitized, it will be still applicable. I'll give you an example. Now imagine you are walking into a hotel for your check-in. What is the first thing that you do? Is about you give your details, information, and you say that, okay, I have a reservation. The guy on the reception, he says that, thank you, you have a reception, you have a confirmation. Fine. Can you share me your Aadhaar card, PAN card copy, or driving license? Immediately, what he does, he takes those things, he goes to the scanner, puts there in the scanner, scans that information, and returns original back to you, which means there was a physical data which now he has created into a digital data. Now, technically speaking, although he had a physical copy or Xerox copy or maybe original for verification, now since he has already digitized that information, he is already required to be compliant from DPDP Act perspective. So consider any organization, whether it's a school, it's a social service NGO, if even if they are getting any data which is in physical existence right now, but whenever it is getting converted into digital form, naturally the act will be applicable to that. So those kind of agencies and organizations also.
Okay. What are the consequences of non-compliance with this act? Are there any fines, any penalties incurred?
Absolutely. So no regulation without so every regulations are with certain consequences. And in this case, DPDP Act provides very heavy penalties and which are never heard of these kind of penalties. So, for example, personal data breach under Section 8(5), subsection 5 of Section 8, up to 250 crore rupees. So, this is a very hefty penalty. Now, a question will be asked that whether for each breach this kind of penalty will be applicable. When the penalty is applicable, the board, which has the authority to investigate any breach, they will look at the gravity of the matter, the offense, what has been committed, how has been done, where the information is used, what is the loss that happened to the other party, and multiple such other aspects will be, and how many times this has been repeated. What are the vulnerabilities in terms of data storage and for encryption related aspects. So they will get into all these details and then they will determine what is the commensurate penalty that can be levied. For example, failure to notify data breach, the liability is up to 200 crore rupees. In terms of additional obligations for children and significant data fiduciaries related aspects, up to 150 crore rupees. Breach of duties under Section 15, up to 10,000 rupees. Breach of voluntary undertakings. So there are different types of penalties which are levied under this act. These are the maximum limits. And at any point of time, the agencies will look at all these aspects first and then levy the penalty to such entities. And outside India, when we look at the certain parallel economies outside India, under GDPR, we have seen huge penalties are already levied by the GDPR regulators outside India. Similar thing will happen in India also, considering the severity of the offense.
Okay, just a minute.
Yeah, just to add out there, Alad, I think
Yes.
the I think if there is a incident where there is a breach of personal data, there will be an inquiry that will
Yes.
happen. Okay, and then the board for the personal DPDP Act will come into being, and they will investigate and figure out what really has gone wrong and who is responsible for that. Once
True.
that responsibility is fixed, then the penalties are applicable. I think that's a process that would happen, I guess, right?
That's correct. Absolutely right.
So this is where the Data Protection Board plays an important role. Maybe you can throw some light on that, Talad.
Yeah, so the data protection board is will be appointed and by the government, and that board will oversee all the activities related to data breaches. And I'm sure this act is going to get elaborated by way of circulars, by FAQs, by clarifications. So we'll have a lot of information coming over a period of time. The rules will be provided. There will be certain specific rules for specific agencies or specific data related aspects. For example, hospital or personal medical related data, certain additional things might come. Or those kind of things will happen. And the board will oversee the overall governance of this regulation.
Okay. Uh, just another question from a participant. As a business owner, if you use the services of a third party to process the digital personal data of your users to provide end services, how can you protect yourself from any liability arising out of any data breaches by a third party?
Right. So a data fiduciary, when they are engaging somebody for data processing, so data processor is appointed, for example, for outsourced work for say data processing, whatever it could be related to. The main responsibility lies on the data fiduciary. Even if you have an executed agreement with the data processor, but if the data processor is faltering or breaching any of the obligations which are under DPDP Act, the data fiduciary will also be held responsible. Now, here is the relevant judgments will come in picture about different aspects related to whether fiduciary has provided those obligations on other party, what was the other party's mala fide intentions, whether audit was performed, not performed, and whether it was negligence on part of fiduciaries, and multiple other things will come. But currently, the way we say there is a liability, it is the liability is will ultimately be will come to the data fiduciary also. So just by making a contract, you cannot stop the liabilities. However, by making a contract, and as Krishna Kumar has mentioned about putting in certain processes and tools and implementing those processes, tools, having regular audits, you can create a environment where you can demonstrate that, look, I have taken utmost responsibility in a very responsible behavior to protect the data which I had given to the processor. Now, something which is happening at the processor's end, then what do I do? Kind of. So those documents will not safeguard you, but it may create certain favorable conditions for you to put it nicely that, okay, you are showcasing that, okay, I have done all best efforts I can put it before the agencies. And those documents could be relevant from that perspective. It may not really absolve full liability, so
Yeah.
to
So
say.
just to
Okay.
add to that, Ujjwala, to what
Yes.
Alad said, I don't a data an organization or like a data fiduciary, as we call it, cannot absolve the responsibility, saying that data got the data given to me got breached by a data processor. That will not be acceptable. Okay, which means that as this act comes into being, every organization must start looking at its contracts which had where data is being given outside for processing. Okay, they will have to look at the contract. What does the contract talk about in terms of uh, protecting data, which the data principal is giving? How is it being protected? What is the SLA talking about? And how is it being protected? Are there any all the security requirements that the corporate wants? Have they been fulfilled or not? Those will come undergo a lot of changes, and I think before the act actually kicks in, it may be good for many of the organizations to start looking at the contracts that they have.
So, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So currently, confidentiality clause is just one cut and paste used by multiple organizations without even realizing what kind of data they are seeking to protect. So here, besides the confidentiality clause, there has to be a specific clause related to data, its protection, the compliance, and in case there is any breach, the reporting as well. So these are the additional responsibilities which are supposed to be provided in the contract so that the implementation of DPDP can be done in true sense.
Okay. We'll have one last question from one of the participants. What is the meaning of process or processing?
Oh, very interesting. So process and processing will mean how I use this information for what purpose and how I use it. For example, if I am a mother who's registered with government agencies for maternity benefits. Now, I have to share this information to the doctors or empaneled for the maternity benefit related information. If I'm eligible to get certain benefits in terms of certain monetary compensation I'm going to receive, then all my details are I'm required to share it to certain agency. Now that agency is going to process my data, which means they're going to get my details, details about where I live, where is my bank account details. Because if subsidy is supposed to be your money, grant is supposed to be provided in my bank account has to be provided. So this all information means processing of the data. It can
Okay.
also mean certain, for example, if it is, if you are participating in a marathon. Now, if you are participating in marathon, they may seek your fitness certificates. If that is a fitness certificate, they may want to get it verified by their panelist doctors. So they may give it to the panelist doctors for verification. That's also part of a processing of the data. Now, all these things, wherever the data which you have shared is used by some agency to work on it, to derive certain information, to create certain decisions and on basis of which certain actions are going to be taken by the agency, then it will be considered as a processing of the data. Krishna Kumar,
I
you
think
want to add
Allah said it
something?
very well. Perfect. I think that's very, very important to understand what's the difference between process and processing. And the responsibility is, like I said earlier, it's of the organization which is collecting the data. So in this case, the agency which is collecting the medical or the fitness certificate, it's his responsibility. It may give it to somebody else, but if it is the responsibility of the person who's collecting or the organization or the marathon organization which is collecting the information of that particular person.
Okay, so we are coming to the end of this discussion. Any final thoughts, both of you, Alad and KK? Alad, you first.
Sure. So this is a very interesting step that India as a country has taken. Some of the legislations worldwide were 20 years before these legislations happened in India. So we have to believe and we have to be sure that yes, my data is my very important property, and it should not be available left, right, center. And as Krishna Kumar gave example, somebody asking the information of my personal identifiable information just like that. That habit should go away, and the protection of personal information should become as a part of culture. Only then this act can be truly implemented in the real sense, and it can be intertwined in our usual commercial life.
Agreed. Yeah.
Very exciting. I'm very excited about this act.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
KK, your
true, Alad.
thoughts?
I think if you really sit back and think where all our personal data is floating, you'll be amazed at the kind of personal data that we have been giving over the years. It's like almost everywhere. Okay, and that is and by anybody can make use of it. And from when SIDR is a cyber company, we come across so many incidences where data has been breached. If you look at the dark web, of course, not everybody can look at the dark web, but the dark web has got a lot of information. You can actually buy a credit card with the CVV number for as less as $1. A live credit card with CVV number, $1 to $2, you can buy it and use it. Now, from where did the dark web get that? That is because somebody has not protected the data of the principal, right? It's not the individual's problem; it's the company's problem. The company has given that, and it has been either stolen or it has been taken away by somebody, or taken away in the process. The process, whatever they have. So that control is now being brought in India, so that data cannot be anymore be used as as just a routine activity where we say, "Acha, aapka Aadhaar card do, aapka PAN card do," this all that. You cannot have that to such an extent that even Aadhaar number you should not reveal. All you will do is give a token number, and that token number is confidential, and it will decode the way it wants and give the information to the organization. So organization will never know what is Aadhaar number. It just gets a token, and from the token you get the all the information of the customer for whatever the organization is trying to do.
So just
Okay,
to add
so
this,
yeah,
how,
yeah.
how will it will impact? Just one more scenario. So today, if you walk into any commercial complex, okay, it's a corporate commercial complex where you are visiting, there is a nice tab which is kept to make your gate pass entry. You put your details, and here is my number which I have put it here, and then I click next, and it pops up my photograph, and it also pops up where I'm going to visit, which means they have stored my data when I visited last time. Now here the thinking should start that whether they had sought my consent before storing my photograph. And now in the current scenario, the consent should be only for this visit, or there could be one tick mark that do you want a system to remember you for the visits also. But if I say no, then they should delete my data. So these are the small things which in our life will get impacted by DPDP Act for sure.
Absolutely. So
Absolutely, yeah.
yes, yeah. With that, we come to this to the end of this discussion. It has been most enlightening and very enjoyable, and I'm sure our participants also have made the best of the knowledge that we've shared here. So thank you very much for your knowledge, and goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Ujjwala.
Ujjwala. Thank you, Alad.
Thanks for
Thank you.
coordinating. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Krishna. Thanks. Bye-bye.